Hello and welcome to Loud Creations. I am back with another mead video, and this one I am calling Date Night Mead, but that's just because I use dates to make it. So that's what I'm calling it. And before I get into how I made the mead, I wanted to talk more about my recipe creation, or whatever you want to call it, development process. And because I don't really, maybe I talk about it a little bit when I'm talking about folklore and all that, and medicinal uses. I try to be mindful of each of the ingredients that I put in, and I do research on most of the ingredients, unless it's one that I'm very familiar with. And I hadn't read up too much on dates. I know that they have health benefits. I did a little more research just so I could get a deeper understanding of how useful dates are. So that is the first ingredient, dates. A bag of dates. I used 2 pounds of dates. I thought I ordered 10 pounds because I was going to make a bigger recipe, but 2 pounds showed up, so we're doing a 1 gallon recipe instead of 3. Yes, I was going to use 10 pounds of dates for 3 gallons. So I don't know how that would have turned out, but I think it would have been really good. But we make do. Anyway, I'm rambling. Okay. So the first ingredient that I'm going to talk about are the dates that are already in here. I used 2 pounds of dates. I ordered some online that didn't have oil or anything added to them that could disrupt the fermentation process. And so in my research on dates, I wrote down some of their medicinal uses. They are high in potassium and replenish that electrolyte in your body, and that is good for your heart health. They're also good for bone health because they contain magnesium. They help reduce the symptoms of menopause, and they also are a blood sugar stabilizer. So just to name a few. Also, let me see if I have more here. Wait a minute. I had also been researching. What got me on the date mead making journey was that I am low on iron. So I was trying to doing research on different fruits and vegetables that are high in iron, and dates have iron in them. So they can be a good source, although it's not like the greatest source of iron, but it's something. So I'll go with that. And there's all the fiber and everything else in dates that have health benefits. Excuse me if I'm sniffling. I'm a little under the weather here, but powering through. Okay, so something else I thought was interesting in my research is that dates are the oldest cultivated fruit in the world. They're native to North Africa and the Middle East. Dates have been mentioned throughout history. They are associated with the Hebrew Bible. They are one of the 7 spices or agricultural products that include wheat, grapes, pomegranates, barley, figs, olives, and dates. So they're very important to ancient cultures as well, as far as sustenance and, being able to keep yourself alive. So that's good. You can also make a vegan honey out of dates called date honey, which is kind of what I did to get this recipe going, but I'll get into that later. So they're a good source of fiber, loaded with vitamins and minerals, and good for all different parts of your body system, in addition to being an ancient fruit that is mentioned in ancient texts. So pretty cool stuff. The next ingredient is oranges, mandarin oranges. I just had way too many of them, and I thought, I'll add some orange juice. And so I'm not going to get into oranges right now. To add to the citrus, I also added orange zest and lemon zest, which I also will not be giving you a history on. The next ingredient is dried heather tips, which I used, probably 1/3 to 1/2 a cup for this recipe. Might be too much, I don't know. So when I was reading up on heather, I listed down some interesting facts about the plant. It has a long history in Scotland. The Pictish tribes in the region also were known to make ale out of heather. There's a lot of folklore around heather. A couple of examples are that heather represents good luck or victory, and was often worn going into battle. White heather was put in the final resting place for fairies. And there's other just interesting little fun facts about how heather was used and the folklore around it, but I'm not going to get into all that right now. In the Scottish Highlands, it was often used for medicine for colds, so like cough, colds, congestion, to soothe the nerves, also to help with arthritis and rheumatism. And it was believed to restore strength and to help with fatigue. So that is what I have on heather. The next ingredient is linden. And linden, the tree, are also known as lime. I think it's the lime tree, but it's not limes, so it's confusing. So I'm just going to call it linden. It has there's a lot of symbolism around this tree. It's one of the ancient trees throughout Europe, and it's mentioned in much of the mythology. I wrote up a little list of all of the symbolism that I could find what it represents. Fairness and harmony, love and fertility, peace and justice, luck and good fortune, freedom and transformation, joy and happiness. It's a sacred tree across cultures, like I said. It's in Greek mythology, Germanic, Slavic, medieval Europe. It was used, and in France. I mean, just basically all over Europe. I know I did a Lithuanian mead. That's why I have some linden left. And so it's also a sacred tree in Lithuania as well. It has medicinal uses. It's good for colds. It's a fever reducer. It helps ease anxiety and relax the nerves and quiet the mind. And it's also a diuretic. And yeah, so I felt like that would be a good addition to the rest of the ingredients. So here we are. Okay, moving on. For this recipe, I also used maybe a little more than 3 pounds of raw honey. I added Go Firm and used Mangrove Jack's yeast. Another ingredient that I will be adding to secondary, but I did add a little bit of it to when I was cooking the dates, is cinnamon. So I put some ground cinnamon in with the dates, and it smelled really nice, made my house smell nice. Here's a little history on cinnamon. It's native to Sri Lanka. It's in Chinese writings dating back to 2800 BC. Egyptians used it in their embalming process. Medieval physicians used it for cough, sore throat, cold. And it's also known to inhibit spoilage, so it was used to preserve like meat. Some of the symbolism around cinnamon is protection, prosperity, that it's energizing, and it also symbolizes love and passion. And the medicinal uses for this are that it's anti-inflammatory, cancer prevention, it's antibiotic, it prevents heart disease, and it's an antioxidant. I know that it's also good for regulating blood sugar, and I'm sure I have only named a few. But cinnamon's a good one to have around, I think. So, okay, that's it. Let's get into what I did to make this mead. Slam. Okay, so I could take this off. Show you what I got going. It's a big bucket of brown sludge, but it smells really nice. Big bucket of brown sludge. There it is. Okay, what were the steps to make this? I'm trying to remember because I didn't write it down, but it's about the same as it always is. First thing I did was I boiled about half a gallon of filtered water. And while that water was starting to boil, I went ahead and I pitted all of the dates. So I took the pits out, set those aside, and I also added my linden and heather to a mesh bag, tied that off. Once the water was boiling, I added my dates and I let that get back up to a boil, and I put the cover on it. And then I thought to myself, I should probably put the tea in there and just let the tea steep while it's simmering. So I added the tea bag in there and stirred it up and let that sit. Now the dates needed to simmer for about 45 minutes, and I left the tea in there, I want to say, for 15 to 20 minutes. Before I took the tea out, I also decided that I wanted to put some cinnamon in primary. So I went ahead and just added some ground cinnamon to the mix, and I can't tell you how much I put in. I just kind of went, and then I stirred it. So, not a ton of cinnamon, but enough to be, it's fragrant, and it really adds to the smell. While that was happening, I went ahead and squeezed the juice out of 5 or 6 mandarin oranges. I got about half a cup of juice out of that. I have that half a cup of juice that I was going to add. I went ahead and took the dates off the stove after 50 minutes, and I poured the tea date cinnamon mix into my bucket here. And then I poured in my orange juice and my couple, I think I used about 2 strips of orange zest and a couple little strips of lemon zest that I added in here as well. And I took some of this liquid out and set it aside to get the go firm going. And I only had a 1/4 teaspoon with me for some reason. So it's half a teaspoon for a gallon is what I put in. So I let that set aside in the hot tea liquid. And then while that was happening, I got another half gallon of filtered water that's cold, and I added it to this to cool it down and just to get it up to, it's going to be more than a gallon, but I wanted to do extras because I'm going to lose a lot of this to all the pulp and sediment on the bottom. I didn't use a bag for the dates, so it's going to be pretty murky. It already is. I added cool water to my Go Firm slurry as well, and then I added my yeast to that and set that aside for a while. And while that was going, I went ahead and took a gravity reading, and the initial reading wasn't quite as high as I wanted it to be, so I added a little bit more honey. And what is the OG for this was 1.132, so that's pretty high. Let's see what that amounts to. The Mangrove Jack's mead yeast, I'm pretty sure, is 18% tolerance, alcohol tolerance. Okay, so that's almost perfect. If this dries out all the way, it'll be 18%. My goal was to not have to back sweeten, but I'll probably, when I move it out of here, I'll take another gravity reading and add honey at that time, because I do think that this would be good. I'm hoping it'll be really rich, and it's going to be high ABV, and I'll probably want it to be a little on the sweet side, moderately sweet. So I'll definitely be back sweetening for this, assuming it dries out. I got the gravity, after the gravity reading was done, the yeast looked like they were starting to wake up. So I poured them in and I stirred this. And again, I stirred it really well just to get as much oxygen in there as possible. And now you can see that it's already bubbling away, and seems to be very happy right now. This is happy date night mead. Next time you see me with this mead, I will probably be 6 months older, because I keep thinking I'm going to do like part 2 videos where you can see the first racking and adding the things into secondary. I never get around to doing it because sometimes I just need to get it done, and the camera is a deterrent. So I will be processing this over the next couple weeks. And then once it's ready to just sit for a while, I'm going to let it sit for about 6 months, hopefully, before I bottle it. And at that point, I will bring it back and we'll do a tasting and see how this turns out. I always think the recipes sound good, and otherwise I wouldn't make them. But this one in particular, I'm really, really, really looking forward to. And yeah, I'm looking forward to tasting it and sharing that with you. I hope this video is useful, and I will see you next time. Thank you.